everyone, good morning. Can someone post in the Discord that I went live, please? Add some odds right here to break OR. Hence starting the stream right now. I just want to see if they can try getting it back above this range. Ideally before mid-session, but it would be even better if they could do it before 12. Because then if we can clear these areas before mid-session or meet them by mid-session like I discussed earlier, that means that we could maybe see those 70s today. So I really want to kind of see how they trade around this. Oh, this is really interesting. Hold on. Something I noticed this morning was just kind of like I think they should have ideally cleared this range here, like closer to like 911, 912. And when I measured the differential between this point in time and the actual point that they hit highs, I don't know if you guys can see this, but these were basically some calculated flips here. It's like right in between, like here, like around 1007, 1008, 1009. And that's about the point in time that they hit lows in real time today. So it looks like market's probably moving in like 29-minute intervals. And then this was around the time that they came back and tried retesting that 69.46, 69.48, like kind of like the top of the zone. If we measure this off of the actual open in real time, even this right here looks like this is probably a little bit late. Not by much, but maybe by like a few minutes. Then they had that reattempt right here. Do you guys see it? Like right in here. So this was good. This was the reattempt. So this should measure right around here. So yeah, there's some odds right here close to like 1135, 36. I don't really want it to be too much further than that though to clear these ranges. And then I did want to see roughly like 75% of the range in time. It's close to like here. So right around the mid-session has technically the best odds, but and there's some odds right at like 412, so just after the bell. But I wonder if they could move things in real time. How many minutes is that? 888. So about 444,888. It's 444 minutes from open. Yeah, that runs like right into the close. Six, 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 six. I'm assuming that this is close to mid-session. Yeah, it is. Okay, so there's a lot of odds around like 1230, 1231, 106, 110. So right in between our mid-session today. Okay, based off like the low ranges that occurred. So we do have the earliest odds right now in terms of clearing opening range right here. So right around 1136, and then again here at like 1148, 1150. These are the best odds in terms of trying to come back and clear these highs though. Okay, so there's a lot of calculated range. Most odds today, unfortunately, are after the close. So we'll have to see where they can bring this to during mid-session. This is going to be a very, very, very important point in the day. These are calculated times today, but also, generally speaking, these are the midpoints of the session. So calculated times of day. And market's been moving in like impulse moves of like 21.5 to 42.5 points. How many points have we moved so far today? See, that's hilarious because yesterday we had this range break right here, like we talked about, was 85 points, I think we said. And we wanted to hold ideally half that range, which would have been around 69.0275, and they did. They held just above there at 69.03. So if we use similar type ranges today, especially like those half point intervals, they're very, very similar. Okay, so and specifically like off lows, they've already broken like 52 points. In real time though, we have yet to break that 42 point range. That's going to be closer to like 66, 67, 68. And I also had noted the 69, 25, 26 areas yesterday, because those would have, if you watched yesterday's stream, those were the ideal areas to hold, specifically around these points in time. So today in real time, I did take a long off there because I said that these areas are going to be preferred. Overnight, I would have preferred that they held 69.14. So I figured the reason for this reduction, like why they could be doing 39.25 points instead of that 42, could be because of this reduction here. Okay, so are you guys with me? So this right here is likely the reason why. So this should be like 40, what did I say? 42.25 or 42.5 or something like that. This reduction here of 2.75 is likely why they're stalling this area right here, because today's high so far is 64.50. Okay, is everyone on the same page? And this is going to be the same thing as our 42 point range, basically off the lows. It's the same thing, and that's that reduction, hence they stalled 6.4. Okay, hence 6.450 stall. 6.750 has a lot of confluence. And another thing I measured this morning was off of opening range. So like that, we opened around like 5.6 I think today. Where's today's open? Yes, off 5.6. I noticed that they held 33 to 34 points. So this was really cool too, because they basically held 2.75. Are you guys listening? Please listen, because this is a little bit complex, but this does a really good job of showing us like how or why they could bring this back up and why we even have odds of doing so. Okay, and there's the 34 point offset off 5.6, which was today's open. So basically this sustainment here, that's a green sustainment, which can essentially imply that they could offset that there on the upside. So this is basically a breach below, hold above, that can offset. Is everyone on the same page? And I would say that today's dynamics are a little bit complex, but generally pretty straightforward. Like if you were, I left a lot of notes in real time today for those that were trading in Discord. So far, some reduction, some slight breaks here, but not quite. You can see how they tried retagging 5.6 here, but did it a bit late. And that makes sense too, based on the range breaks that they had this morning. And like, you see how today we had like tiny differentials, tiny offsets. Even with this, I noticed that a lot of these ranges in time, like this hitting right here versus here, there's about like 2-3 minutes late. Or here it was like 2-3 minutes early. Here it was about 2-3 minutes late. Kind of the same thing here. $69.58 being taken out. We'll see if we get some structure breaks ahead of 12. If we don't, it's okay. We still have until this period here, but I would prefer that they retest highs during these points so that we at least have odds of maybe getting to the zone. So the goal was, if we get the same sort of range breaks or structure breaks, a lot of these areas surprisingly are aligned with us breaking the zone. So this would be like the same thing off open. Do you see that? Are you guys paying attention here? Look. Let me delete this real quick. So let's say real-time lows off open. Do you see that? This should be 5-6. Opening range to potential highs. You see how it aligns with 8-7, 6-9-8-7 confluence off OR linked to low a day for real time. We've had so much confluence around 6-9-8-7, 6-9-8-8. Another area of confluence was where did it go? This right here, the 173 points, which is half of 346 off lows of the week, is 6-9-8-7. So again, it's showing up. And I did send everything this morning, but we'll just recap some of it right now, in case some of you guys forgot. Oh, this right here, yesterday's highs plus that 42.5. Again, 6-9-8-7. So there's a lot of confluence around this 69.87, which is basically our zone entry, okay? And you can see it again today too in real time. So yesterday's highs in that 42.5 point range, 8-7. Okay, I just want to see what kind of range this is. 77 points off opening range. Today's real-time open, 5-6. Okay, hold on. Two real-time lows, which is 2-5, I think. What was today's real-time lows? 2-5. Yeah, 30.5. Okay, so this is just so you can see the confluence here. That this should be the opposite. This should be green and that should be pink, but whatever. And it's the same thing off the highs that we already talked about from yesterday. So yesterday's highs to here, same idea. This is off that 42.5 point range. And I know usually we use 33, 34, 43, 44, but honestly it makes sense if they've reduced range by 2.75 points. Does that make sense, you guys? Like, think about it. Like, they already started doing that as early as yesterday, because when they cleared and broke yesterday, if you were paying attention to that, like back in here at 2:27 p.m. when they cleared this, like normally you'd get like 88 points. Do you see what I'm saying? Look, do you see where that 2.75 to 3 point range started in the first place? Like, it's very, very clear that like they started reducing it by a tiny, tiny bit. I just thought that that was a really interesting way of looking at this. And also, like we said, like they did 131 points versus like that 134, 135 that they've been doing. So off lows, 130.75. Whereas back in here, there was a lot more confluence around like 136.75, 135.75. Do you see what I'm saying? So even in here, 134.25, if you take those and subtract that 130.75 or 131 area, it should net like roughly close to like 2.75 to 4 points. So I feel like that's where a lot of the reduction has come into play. Okay. And even when we looked at this on the downside too, like we hit just above that 222. And I've mentioned probably a dozen times now that like we've been ranging 222 to 227 in terms of points. Okay? Go back and read that case study I talked about maybe a few weeks ago in terms of that. And why they've been ranging closer to like 222 to 226, 227 point ranges. And I talked about that yesterday too. And it makes sense once they start hitting like 110 to 115 points in range, especially in real time. So when I looked at yesterday's range, I was like, okay, that makes sense, because from a real time perspective, are you guys with me? They hit 107 points in range, okay? 108. Do you see that? This is for real time. Okay. This was the overall range. So, and that's basically the 33 to 34 point differential between 256 in terms of what they're leaving on downside, meaning there could still be that 34 points on upside. Another way that you can think of it too is they could also cap range. Are you guys listening? They could also cap range on the inverse. So if they want to keep this sideways, they could just make it so that it's either 34 points beneath or above. So this is kind of closer to like this is why this is very confined. Like even if they were to break highs, 226 points to 227 points is going to be our 7041 target. So that's another interesting way of looking at this too. I talked about this yesterday, but we'll cover this again. Whereas if they had like 256, this is how you can get those core ranges. Okay, but if they don't want to extend this, that 34 points above, okay, just stay with me. So 34 points above highs is the same thing as hitting 256 points, okay? If they don't want to extend that, let me just delete these, hold on. If they don't want to extend that, and they want to reduce range and keep this a little bit sideways, basically beneath highs but above 6988, what they could do is keep it right around that 7K mark. Does that make sense? And this is why I said that they could cap us around the neutral zone this week. Okay? And this would be like if they, let's say, wanted to break 6988 but didn't really want to break too much higher than like 7,000. Okay? This would kind of be like a confined area in range, where they could limit like 256 point ratios. Another way you can think of it too is even just like the difference between like the open close ratio. Which isn't much, but you see how it's like very similar to here. So let me clear this. They had like a 24 to 23 point range back here. They had something very similar here. Very similar here. Do you guys see it? Like this right here versus this right here. It's actually very, very similar to like 24.5, 23 points. That could be another range and reduction that they could do, or you can look at it as like measuring off of open close versus highs to lows. So open close ratios, if they did 173, you'd be maybe confined to your neutral areas. Let me know if this makes sense, because I feel like some of you get extremely confused quickly. So this is why I said that while they could break 7,000 this week, there's a chance they could stall this neutral area. And from an open close perspective, it makes sense if they wanted to try to take this back to previous open close ranges. 6988, 6988. This is when they started doing neutral ranges. I'll make these yellow. Neutral, open, neutral, close, neutral, open, neutral, close, neutral, open, neutral, close, neutral, open. Do you see what I'm saying? This is if they wanted to confine it close to like these open close, meaning if they could end the week here. Tomorrow's Friday, right? Or am I crazy? And from yesterday's notes, where did I put that? Hold on. 1 second. Here you go. Structure and odds. Okay. Okay, so does everyone understand why this is why they could maybe limit this area here? Does everyone see the confluence of why 6988 is the spot with a slight odd of getting to like the 7,000, 7,006, 14, whatever? Okay. Another way of looking at this too is we have a lot of odds for next week, but if they even try to engulf the 4-day, it doesn't even have to take out highs. All that has to test is 7017. And I noticed that this doesn't flip till the 27th, meaning the last day for this is actually Monday. So that's what could limit the range a little bit over the next 2 days. Does that make sense? That's like a structural way of looking at it too. And then we have multi-flips for the 27th and 28th too. So the only frame that had odds of engulfing as early as today is the 7-day, but like I said, I don't think that's going to happen unless they were to like clear 6966, 6971 overnight and then tried clearing 6988 like immediately off the open, which like obviously that had a very low odd, where this can just come back and flag up, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Seventh bar could end up being what? You could see the fourth bar exhausted here a little bit. What could the seventh bar end up being if they do something like this? And this could align really well with our month end odds, by the way. Let me just show you. What could the seventh bar end up being? And this flips on the 23rd and runs until month end. So this is a really good time frame because it includes month end and it includes the 23rd. So it includes the entire week between the 23rd, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 2nd of February. So it includes month end and the beginning of the new month, which usually month end and new month can acquire volatility, or you can get like some pretty good PA. So seventh bar here can be a potential bull flag, right? It's good to start looking at some of these structures. 8-day, 9-day, none of these are stuck in inside ranges anymore. The only time frames that had like some deeper risk, I think was, oh, this was still stuck on an inside range until February 10th. So I would think that the 22nd range today is pretty crucial because this candle just opened today. And you can kind of see the structures on this time frame too are kind of based around like the 6970s and these 6918, 06, 05. The 14-day is what's flagging and flipped over, or flips over tomorrow, sorry. This is a valid structure as long as they can close above 69.25, I think we said. So that's a reason of importance for holding this area today. Does that make sense? This was another reason why I really prefer that they tried their best to ideally hold above this range today in real time. It was a calculated area yesterday, but from a structural basis, since this candle closes today, do you understand that concept? Because this can help keep this 14-day flag in a continuation, okay, from now till like mid-quarter or something. And then I kind of, technically you can just use these as like points for overnight, but they did a pretty decent job of trying to hold these areas here and then made a higher low. So some reductions here before 12. I think that's still okay. They're still holding that 69.53.50 area, which I mentioned this afternoon being this morning, sorry, being a very important spot. Let me copy paste. So we'll see if they can try holding the channel. Otherwise, I think they could just kind of make this pinnable. Unfortunately, all we need to do today is close above 69.25. I would rather hold there and try getting ranges closer to like 6.6, 6.7, so that we can keep odds alive for 69.88 and maybe 7K for tomorrow. Otherwise, it could be implying those delays. I did put this as a potential scenario if they decide to confine ranges. I mentioned that yesterday. So that would be the capped scenario that we talked about, and this was a high scenario if they basically stalled 69.66, and they never retraced 69.66 before open. So one of the conditions was they'd have to test, they have to hold 69.06, 69.14. They did a decent job of that, but they do have to test in 69.58 and 66 before open. So you can kind of see that they 69.58, sorry, they did stall 69.58, and not by much, but by a little bit. So again, it's like the same thing here where, like, you see how they kind of finally moved here right before open. There's that 2.75 reduction again. Okay, offer 69.58, 69.58.75. So I think that was one of the reasons why. And then overall reduction, I think before open was off the 6.6, because I think the highest range they hit before open was, what time was this? I think this was the highest range before open, was 69.59. So they hit 5.9, but they never hit 6.6 ahead of open, okay, or even 6.4. So you could assume like maybe 7 points. That can really start confining things around like 7.2 and stuff. This is what could reduce it beneath that 8.788, closer to 7.9. You see how that could end up creating this scenario. I just want you guys to see how that scenario could play out if they make these areas the max ranges. Okay, so these areas here basically. Do you see it? And a lot of this is due to where they open. So 5.6, it's not a terrible open. At least it's still above 5.2, but it's not 5.8, and we never hit 6.6. Nice. It looked really good on Meta. It is way stronger than ES. Did you trade it today? That was the only mega cap tech name that I took today. I didn't really like any others. It's just a really good structural setup too if they bring this back. I haven't really went back and measured this too much, but if you go back like off these previous ranges right here, I don't know if you can see that. You see how it leads back to like that 746. Obviously there's going to be a lot of structural breaks in between, but and then silver too. I don't know if anyone traded that, but silver is, where did it go? On SLV, we wanted silver to break 96. Where did my silver chart go? I think I have an alert set there. I thought I did. That's getting super close. This was a really good day trade too for anyone that did SLV today or tried it. I mentioned it this morning in here and again back here. Just some alternatives to trading ES since ES is a little bit sticky today. And then gold has been very constructive. Where's my gold chart? Gold. We need gold to, where did it go? GC. it not this template? Well, maybe it's... I deleted my stuff last week by accident. I don't know where my gold template went. I just posted it to Twitter too, so that's weird. Here it is. Close to like 4,900. Like, it's closer to like 4,911 when I went back and relooked at it yesterday, but I mean, it's not that far off. It's like 10 points or something. So gold and silver still getting some really good moves. Okay, we have our odds coming up here soon, so it's going to be a bit of a snooze fest with ES since they could do those limitations, but what do you guys think? You think that they're going to limit us this week to these ranges? That would really suck. Or do you guys think we have odds of getting 7K by Friday? What do you guys think? I gave you guys in-depth dynamics of what's happening, so I feel like you guys should have a pretty good idea on like how to trade this. So what do you guys think? Yeah, I think so. As long as they give us some, I think we have to, okay, with what conditions though? I don't think we need to clear 71 to get a zone test tomorrow. We definitely need to clear 6668. I feel like 6668 is the absolute minimum. Everyone's in agreement? Like, that is the minimum. If they can't clear 6668, then those odds are probably completely off the table. Or they could be, like, limited to, like, 87, 86, 88. Does that make sense? But 7K odds, I would think, would be off the table. We're getting some pretty good breaks here. We have some calculated points in time coming up. Remember how I said, too, that they could have, like, those 29-minute intervals from the same ranges we looked at this morning? I think it was 29 minutes. Maybe 28. So we can maybe watch this just in case they get an earlier break, but these were the best odds in terms of getting breaks of 6-6, 6-8, since they were really calculated points in the day. Okay. I'll be right back in just like 2 minutes. Just give me 2 minutes. Okay, sorry about that. I was looking at some other like alternatives to silver since like silver's obviously moved a lot, but we've been trading SLV and AG, but these are maybe some other alternatives to like precious metals that are similar to silver that could move in terms of just like some sympathy off the sector itself versus the actual underlying metal. This one's kind of flagging off a 3-month. And it's pretty cheap, so. I just unmuted myself. I shouldn't be muted anymore. For Canadians too, this one's a good ETF to trade. I know it's obviously skyrocketed highs, but these are just some alternatives. Anyway, we've been talking about silver and gold since 2022 and 2023, so. But these are just some other alternatives, just in case. No problem, Josh. I'm so glad that you took advantage of that. Gold was my 2022 annual report. My pick for the year on a 3-year cycle was gold. I have it on my website from like back in 2022. I did an entire thesis on it. So yeah, and it was like a run up until 2026 that could continue. I still think gold could easily take out 5K, but we'll have to see. No, I don't think you're a slow learner. But definitely the year for materials miners. And it honestly, now looking at it like 2-3 years later, it makes sense, right? Like from a geopolitical perspective, right? Like in terms of what's actually happening. And that directly impacts basic materials. That's what they're after, right? That's what all this world tension is about anyway. So it's just funny though, once like after the fact, when everything starts to align, like seeing the technical setups in 2023 is one thing, but then seeing how it actually played out and why it's playing out in 2025, 2026 is it's kind of fascinating. You know, like Trump winning, causing absolute fucking chaos. Like wanting to take over Greenland. Yeah, Sem is great. Yes. That was one of my favorite movies to watch in theaters. Like of all time. I love that movie. So far with these reductions in range, like so this was a point in time of turning it over. They're definitely reducing it. We'll see what they do between this 12. This is the most important period today. This afternoon, guys. This period here. I haven't seen the newer one yet. Speaking of gold, Josh, it's about to clear our spot. That's getting super, super close. Yeah, isn't it great? Like using that range. I haven't actually used it on this, but what's 587 by 2? 293. So they basically are hitting like half that from here. Is this 587 then here too? Oh, that's pretty close. Do you see this? Like that 587 range that we used in the past, look. So that area is definitely an area of confluence. I know this looks super messy, but that's the range I used in the past. Do you see it? Right here. If we use that measured off of this structural stick, or you can use it off, I guess, the yearly open. What's the yearly open? 18. So they're getting very close to that spot. It won't let the cursor hit 8.7, but anyway, it's super close to here. Yeah, that's exactly where I had it marked, like close to like 60, 49.05, 03. I never measured the time intervals on this though, like how long it takes to acquire this much range. So let's see, like 17 bars. I haven't back tested this yet. I have alerts set on ES, but maybe I'll just reset these. 6962. Okay. Oh yeah, I know I was using this. I was using 12 bars. So that's interesting because I had a flip on the 16th. Then the turnaround right here. And right here. Oh, so we were using 12 bars then on gold. And that makes sense too because of like these turnarounds right here. Do you guys see it? So what about when you start from the actual range and highs? Or these clearance breaks? Well, I'm just testing something because this is just like a mid-structure break, okay? So like from here to here, here to here. I know this is confusing, but mid-structures are important too, especially when like direction starts to go both ways. That's interesting. So this is probably when it started to break these structures here. This is probably the cutoff here. What day is that? So basically month end, I guess. Or like February 3rd. I guess we'll watch this anyway, just because we have those other flips, but from the actual point in time here on the 5th, that would be aligned with today, okay? I'm gonna delete these because it's kind of messy, but do you guys see that? So like, in terms of this right here, okay, for the new year, these definitely align with yesterday and today, especially in terms of like the clearance above 4,404, which is why today has the earliest odds of this. So use 12 bars on gold, okay? Jot down February 6th and February 9th. And I know it sounds insane, but if gold can clear these areas, it basically keeps putting it in like these 587 point intervals. I have it on my other template, not this one, like this area up here, but it's not on this template. I'll have to pull up my other template, but it's essentially the same thing as these ranges down here. Okay, these clearance breaks right here. Do you see that? They're already starting to clear these areas. These are huge spots for gold, even on this template, especially off like the 4,200 range. And then if you look at it like and measure it off the actual highs that occurred, I haven't really put ranges on the GC chart, but I've kind of just been tracking it as we go. But these would be the spots pretty close to where they're hitting right now. Okay, let's go back to ES since it's calculated times of day. Let's see. The actual calculated time was 12:31 in terms of retesting high of day, close to 12:31, 12:33. How many think we'll break this here? I should have done a poll earlier. Damn it, before the calculated point in the day. This is our calculated time for high of day retest. I'll only set this to a minute since it's already 12:31, but so far 69, 63, 25 tested. So these were the calculated periods in between here, starting as early as here, with the cutoff being 12:33. I wouldn't want that past 12:33 to not test 69, 64, 50, I think. Can you guys vote on that, please? I forgot to set it earlier. These were the highest odds of a high of day retest here. And it's crucial because if they break high of day during this period of time, then it gives us odds of getting the zone today. That's insane. New high of day, guys, 69, 66 being tested. And we calculated this like an hour and a half ago, so that's pretty insane that they're doing it right on time. We'll see if we get the 6667 break. So these were the calculated areas. So it's not just breaking highs, it's trying to trigger 6625, 6775. Okay? Because this will give us a very good idea on the kind of remaining range we could get for the session today. So far, they're hitting just beneath 6.6. Let's watch this in a 5-second because it's more fun that way. Don't you guys love trading? Like, trading is so much fun. Did they tag 6.6? So far, 6.6 tag, no 6.625. I think 2.5 was the more calculated spot. 6.6 though still tagged on time, so I think this could still give us some decent odds of getting, like at the very least, maybe like the 7.4, 7.6. I don't have these areas marked, but these were the spots we calculated this morning. Yeah. But even seeing this, like seeing that this, calculating that this was the time of day that we're going to retest and break highs, like, do you know how satisfying that is? Especially when like everyone says, "Oh, you can't time the market. You can't do this. You can't." Yeah, you can do anything. It just depends on how much work you put in. And this is like an example of that. Conditions being met, you guys, between 12:30 and 12:33, and the break of high of day and test of 6966 gives us odds of extending this afternoon. We had some more calculated ranges around 106. I'm just going to mark between like 104 and 108. 106 was the more calculated point, but we'll watch these intervals too. This was the earliest point in time I had for triggering the actual zone in case they decided to do that as early as today. And that would be if these conditions were met during this time. I think in order for that to happen though, we probably have to trigger at least the 7.1 or 6.9 area. What do you guys think? And I sent all the ranges this morning so that you guys have them and we're prepared for this move, but I think the spots were close to 6.9, 7.5, 50, 69, 74 or something like that. These were the ranges. 77. So far, our long off 69.26 is insane. These were the extensions for the week. If, you guys listening, if they met the zone area as early as today, okay? Those are completely off the table if they don't break or test 6988 today, though. Like 70, 17, 70, 20, basically retest. You guys can take some off in these areas here if you want. I decided to just hold because I want to see what they do around that 1 o'clock period. And I had a really good entry this morning too, so obviously depends on where you entered the trade. We're gonna watch 12:45 through 12:48 just because that's the actual mid-session today. Even though today's odds were for clearing highs was closer to like 12:30, 12:33, this is the actual mid-session, okay? They're not calculated times, it's just the mid-session. And mid-session for the actual entire session is 1:15. So we'll just watch these points in time because they are mid-session, but today's odds were a little bit ahead of mid-session for real time and mid-session for overnight session. What do you guys think? What do you think the max range is going to be today? What do you guys think? Silver is getting super close to triggering that 96.25 area. I have an alert set. If gold and silver trigger you guys at the exact same time, that is insane. If these trigger alerts here at the exact same time, that would be crazy. Let's keep these up together. Which one do you think is going to trigger first, gold or silver? That's actually crazy because we planned these targets a few weeks back. Gold or silver? Which one's going to trigger first, or do they trigger at the same time? Let's set this to 2 minutes. So silver 96.26, gold I think is closer to 49.05, but I have 49.03 marked. Can you guys vote on that, please? The thing is though gold can get some pretty crazy sticks like this, so if it really wanted to stick up, it could. And the crazy thing is, look at where they're testing and where ES is trading. ES is trading at its calculated range of 6966. Isn't that insane? And we had the most confluence today around 6966, 6968. So gold and silver are aligned with ES in terms of like structural breaks. The really calculated spot for ES is, did I just close the ES chart? I think I did by accident. This is not the template though. I think it's this one. The actual calculated spot is closer to like this 6-7 area. Okay, mid-session approaching, guys, for real time. And like I said earlier this morning, if we hit these ranges by mid-session, okay, then we have these odds. Okay? Basically this. Hold on. I'll just copy paste because I know some of you guys are not in Discord, but so if we hit the 6.8, 6.7 area by mid-session, then we have these odds. Look at where we're trading at mid-session. Like 69, 66. That's insane. Okay, I planned that out at 8:43 this morning. That's crazy. This is where they can decide if they want to condense range, if they want to limit it, if they want to expand it, specifically during these points in time. The only benefit that we have, though, is we met these conditions on time based on the calculated time interval for today's real-time session. And we have more calculated odds around like 104, 106, 108. So if for whatever reason they don't clear during this point in time between like 12:45, 12:48, we technically still have this window open until here. Does that make sense? Yeah, Meta's getting some. There it is. Silver took the win. Silver triggering right on time here for mid-session. That's pretty crazy. Meta is still super strong. Apple was actually picking up some strength too, though. All right, let's see. So we'll see, though, if maybe gold triggers this area by the time silver actually clears this area here. But there is a lot of confluence around this 96, 97 spot for silver. There is that structure break on silver. Document this stick, because even seeing this price action at that specific level tells you that that area is calculated, okay? And like I said, you could do AG, you could do just SLV if you wanted to. I did SLV, but you could obviously do whatever you want. Let's see if maybe gold triggers the same time ES does. We'll see. Let's watch the 4, 8, and 50 window on. It's pretty insane, though, to see the the alignment here with gold, silver, and ES all off these pretty big spots for the session. The silver contracts were so cheap this morning, too. I picked up some more weeklies on the 89 strike this morning, guys, at like 25 cents. They're almost triggering 75 now. These expire tomorrow. I have some February calls, but these were just to kind of capture the break of 96. Because I still think we could go to 102. I'll see if I'll hold these. I think I probably will end up holding those SLV contracts into tomorrow. Maybe I'll cover half, but so far ES compressing range a tiny bit here, installing. Again, like I said, it's fine since we have odds closer to this point in time here. I'm going to just mark the 1 o'clock period. Do we have any catalysts today at 1? I didn't even check. There's the break on gold. 60, sorry, not 60. 4904, 4905 triggering on gold on that stick break. The most calculated area on there I had today was 4911. I know I have 4915 mark, but when I went back and looked at it, 4911 had a lot of confluence. So that's going to be a big spot we're going to watch for. Especially at these points in the day. There's the 6-6 break. So gold and ES triggering at the exact same time here, guys. Off this 4905 and 6750 break. That's some pretty crazy alignment here. We have the 10-year auction at 1. Oh, I didn't even look at that. Oops. Nice. Yeah, Tesla's doing really good today too. So 696,750 being taken out. If you're day trading gold and silver, technically you could take some off here, but I think them clearing these areas, especially at mid-session, implies that they could easily take this higher. And also because ES is taking out 69, 67.50 at this time too. Plus ES has odds around this 1 o'clock period too. So, and we have, what's it called? The auction. So. Are you guys still holding your contracts on ES? Off the 2-6? Best areas to long today were between 69.25 and 69.32. This was the best area, in my opinion, on the long today. And specifically for these 6, 7, 6, 8 targets. How many points is that now? That's that 42 point range, right? Here? It should be. Yeah, it is. We're hitting that 42.5 point range here. So if they break this, this is where we could see some accelerated price movements. This is exactly 42.5 points now. And right ahead of 1. And we still have those odds here for like 106, 105. If you want to cover some here, you can. Like I said, I'm going to personally wait because of the fact that we triggered 6-6 and broke high of day during this calculated time, which implies odds of continuation through that 1 o'clock to 106 period. And I had some calculated odds around 7.4, 7.5, 7.9 today, so. And 8.8. I don't know if they're going to give us 8.8 today. That could be pushing it, but we'll see. Let's do a poll. Max range for real-time session today, 6.9. This is kind of tight, but 6.9, 7.4, 6.9, 7.6, 6.9, 7.8, 6.9, 8.1, 6.9, 8.4, 6.9, 8.8, 69, 88 plus. I'm gonna set that for 5 minutes. Can everyone vote on this time, please? Like, voting on max range is super important because it kind of gives you an idea of how the majority is feeling. Now I'm gonna put my vote in. And a lot of this is going to be relative to what they do during this period here. So far they're already starting to stall 6.8 a little bit and reduce range just a tiny bit. Can we get some more votes, guys, please? If I'm going to stream the majority of the session and I've been posting in real time since 6:37 this morning, then at least try to participate. And I know Dougie always reminds me of this, but what is this? I'll let you guys know what I voted once the poll closes. How did you guys do today, though? I'm actually glad that we had that short this morning, too, because it gave us that nice long opportunity as well, which we never would have had if we had tested 6.6, I think, before pre-market. I feel like they would have limited us to like 5.2 or something, maybe like 4.8. Let's get a few more votes if you guys can. I want to see what range we trigger here. So these are my conditions. If they can take out 68.50 before 1, okay, and they can clear these areas here during our calculated points in the day, I voted that they could get breaks of 7.9. If they clear these areas during this point in the day, then we could, there's definitely an odd that we can get 6.9, 8.4 to 8.8, okay? A lot of it's going to depend on where they trigger during this point in time, though, because we also have auctions that could move price, so that's helpful. But that being said, that could also be volatility, right, on the downside. So it's a lot of it's relative to what they do before 1 here. And since 6.850, 6.750 is calculated, it would make sense that they'd have to close above here before 1, and that could give you better odds of getting to these spots here during this point in time. Does that make sense? I know I didn't really put 7,000 on there, but the 6988 plus is basically this area here, okay? That would be the area. These would be the spots that I think. I don't really see them taking this above there, but again, I don't like to 70 14, 70 20 today, but a lot of it's going to be based on what they do during this period. And the reason I say that is because they could just make this pinnable into the close after hitting these spots. Does that make sense? And I know that wouldn't be the most fun price action because it'd kind of just be like basically what they've done here for like the next 2 hours, but we have 3 hours left to go, so there's still a lot of time. All right, seems tied here between highs basically being in and 6, 9, 7, 8, and 8, 1. Well, I voted for 7, 8, and 8, 1. That's what I voted for. But like I said, I think if they can clear these areas during these points here, then there could be some odds that we could get higher. Oh, if they don't clear these areas though during these points, they could also limit it to maybe this 7, 4, 7, 5 area. So just as an FYI. Let's see what they do. Let's set some higher alerts here. Let's set this to 6970.5. 6973. So they triggered 6825 ahead of one, but no break of it. That's pretty similar to what they did at 6966, where they stalled 696625. So another 0.25 stall, but we'll see if they can try clearing the spot here for one. This was the more calculated time anyway, so we'll kind of watch these periods here to take out 6850. We were spot on about these being the points to break highs and test 66. So we'll see if we're spot on for this being the point in time between here and here to take out 6850 and test the 7.1 to 7.4 ranges. What do you guys think? How are you feeling? Come on, you guys. Hurry before 104. What do you guys think? Now that you've kind of seen how market reacted around 1, just before 1, some volatility coming in here on a 6850 stall so far, breaking back to 6.2. We'll see if they can trigger it back before that 30-second interval flips over. They did take out 6.9 though, or 6850 I mean. Well, I think they'd still have to sustain though. Like the 6.4 to 6.6 area here, like, and try closing above. Otherwise, that could, like I said, if they stall 6.9, 6.8 ahead of time, that could also imply that downside volatility too, right? Back to like 5.6, 5.8. We'll see where they can close this candlestick, and if they can negate between 104, 106. But do you guys see the volatility increasing here? Volume coming into off the chain. This area up here should start feeling heavy anyway, because it is heavy. These are like the 42.5 to 44 point ranges. The most calculated time was 106, so let's do some sound effects. That's not really a drum roll. Okay, we're getting close. What was even this high? 6969. What do you guys think? You think they take it out? This is a very important period in the day, because this is essentially what's going to help us decide if they're going to cap our range and make it pinnable for the end of session today. Let me mark the 30 and 45-second mark here. And I did mark between 106 and 108. I noticed here too I had marked between 1231 and 1233, and we had actual range breaks at 3.2, which could imply that they could have like something similar occur off that 07 stick, but so far they're stalling exactly 69, 68, 69, 68, 50, 69, 69. Typically for auctions, we almost always watch around that 110, 112 period, and also because mid-session occurs around 1:15, but these were just more calculated times to trigger that 6,850, 6,9 spot, which we still did do, we just never cleared it. So we'll have to see if they can try pushing that range around that 110 through 115 window, ideally. So far though, this kind of PA at these price points, at these points in time, definitely imply that they could limit range a little bit this afternoon. I'll set this only to 1 minute since they could obviously break ahead of then, but can you guys vote on that, please? So 106 still closed above 666625. I do think, however, the 110, 112 period need to get back at least over this 6775 for that to even be a probability. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck here, I think, a little bit this afternoon. Let's get more votes than just 4 people, guys. Come on. Do you guys feel how heavy price is up here? Like between 6964, 6969? And in terms of range, it's basically like the same thing as that 10 points we talked about earlier. Hence, they could limit these ranges around like 7.6, 7.9, even if they came back later in the session and decided to take out these ranges. So far, they're definitely reducing range. I had taken some off on that 106 stick after they stalled 6,850. How much range have they reduced so far? 6.75. Okay, so basically the 75, 76 ranges we were looking at. Silver just got a pop. Gold testing 69.15. Which means that this could easily get those structure breaks to 23, 24 today on gold. I'll probably end the stream, you guys, in the next... We did have a flip at 144, so this was more if like they delayed like mid-session. Obviously we're still going to watch between 130, 136, since those are always key points in the day, and just before 2, but these were the most calculated points in terms of range. Okay, so, and determining the kind of PA we could basically get. So I'll probably end this stream in like the next few minutes since we triggered our targets for the session today. Anything above 66668 I would say would be a bonus. And I still think that these would be the ranges that we would have today. If they decide to make this pinnable, it could become pinnable basically between 5.2 to 7.6 maybe. Taking it back beneath 6.4 here too before mid-session definitely implies that they could compress that range like we talked about this morning, which is the same thing as being stuck between here, just as a recap. You could do short hedges off 6.668 too if you wanted to. I would just be cautious just because they could have those extensions through this period here, okay? Or if not even that, like the price action could just be very sideways. Does that make sense? Like where they could still, and it's because they still have some room up because they technically took out 6.6, 6.7, 6.8. So that still keeps the window open for like 7.1, 7.2, 7.4, 7.5, 7.6. Is everyone on the same page? That being said, that can make like your PA a lot like this, like kind of sideways, okay? Where it makes it very hard to go long, short, whatever. Not that you can't do a hedge off these areas here, it's just I would be a little bit cautious with the type of PA because the ranges were still met on time. Okay, I'm gonna probably shut off the stream now since these spots were met. I really want to just kind of stream through our mid sessions, our calculated times of day around the 6.9, 6.6, 6.8 test, just so that you guys can have a better idea of what to expect maybe this afternoon. If I see any sort of major change in like the next half hour or so, then maybe I'll do like an end of session stream, but a lot of odds were for after the bell. So, and I already hit my target, so it doesn't, anything above 6.6, 6.8 for me here now is just a bonus really. Okay, I will catch up with you guys maybe in like the next half hour on Discord. I'll just see what they do around like this period between like 1:15